hour, I guess. Okay. So welcome everyone. I'm happy to see some of faces I haven't seen for a while, and I want to introduce my colleague, my friend, Mira Angrist. And Mira, actually, we've met several years ago in one of the conferences, Memphis, University of Memphis. And
it was the National Association of Professors of Hebrew.
Yes, and we were actually in the same sitting and presented similar topics. So that's how we kind of connected. That was our first connection. And Mira is a senior lecturer at Boston University since 2008, and she's the head of the Hebrew program since 2012, and she is coordinating the full-time faculty and affiliate faculty at the Heli Wiesel Center for Jewish Studies. Mira expertise includes the blended classroom techniques, integration of technology with language pedagogy, spiral curriculum development, and teacher mentoring. She is very, very busy, and I'm so happy that she had the time to be here today, because she's also a grandma with two beautiful grandchildren. And she's doing a lot of work in the community for the Hebrew teachers and educators. She's volunteering a lot of her time on, Zoom to the community around, I would say, United States and beyond, even Israel. Whoever wants to join, she's doing monthly, I think, like seminars, workshops, advertising in Facebook, and it's been growing. I think, like 50 educators, are joining some of the sessions. So it's been really wonderful learning from a lot of her tips and ideas, and she's very available if you have any questions. So feel free to, I'll post Mira's email after, and you can reach out to her. So here you go, Mira.
Okay, well, nice to see you all. I see some faces, but not all. And I guess there is a representation here of many languages, right? Do you mind just saying what language do you teach?
German.
Spanish.
French. Okay.
Chinese.
Or Spanish.
Spanish too.
Or Spanish. Okay.
A lot of Spanish here.
That's right. In our at the BU, we have 3 language programs. One is what we call world languages. There are 10 languages within them, like Hebrew, Arabic, German, Russian, Chinese, Korean, Persian, and then we have the Roman studies, which is Spanish, French, Italian, and Portuguese. And then we have African languages. So it's interesting. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
I'm sorry, but Mira, I'm just realizing that do you work at BU?
Yes.
I graduated from BU, from like the Spanish PhD program, like at
Wonderful.
the department. Yeah, I was there from 2008. I don't know how we didn't cross paths, because I was there from 2008 until 2012.
Yeah, that's what Mira started 2008. Yes.
I started as a part-time in 2008, and then in 2012 I became full-time and the head of the Hebrew program. Yeah. So yeah, I'm working very closely with some of the Spanish.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, nice. So thank you for coming to my presentation. The topic is game-based learning and gamification to engage students learning and promote students and promote both motivation and learning. I know that Hagit presented me, but here is a picture of BU for you. And when it's spring or fall, as a matter of fact. Some of my interests in the field include, Hagit mentioned technopedagogy, visual literacy in teaching languages and content-based culture courses, spiral curriculum design. I also enjoy and to mentor and coach new teachers. And another topic of interest, which is our topic for today, is game-based learning and gamification. And as you can see, I also run a Facebook group called Ivrit L2. Ivrit is the Hebrew word for Hebrew, L2, where I try and support teachers, Hebrew teachers nationwide, not just in higher education, but in all grades. So are we ready to play? We'll do our best to play remotely. So let's start with this activity. We have here 2 GIFs and 4 pictures, and just as a way to get to know each other, let's do this activity. Approach someone in our group with one of the pictures and ask, I don't know, do we have any male teachers here or only female? Okay, approach anyone in the group with a question related to the picture. For example, Hagit, where is your best cafe place in the world? Where would you like now to sit? In what type of cafe? Hagit, are you with me?
You're on mute.
Try and unmute yourself so we can have a conversation.
Sorry. A cafe on
around the world.
Yes, in Tel Aviv.
Okay, do you have a specific one?
Yes, Eats Cafe.
Okay, so Hagit, why don't you approach someone in the group, pick a pictures and use the picture to generate a question.
Yes, so Atia, what would you like to do on a sunny day?
On a sunny day, I'd like to go on a walk by, not on the beach, but you know, on the promenade by the beach, so I can see the ocean and feel the air and everything around me.
Okay, wonderful. More, let's, you know, you can jump in. We don't have to take certain terms, but you can.
Yeah. So for example, for like 24/7, what stores open 24/7s that you know? Which store is open 24/7?
Or like I could take this picture and ask, for example, Leah, is your day, is your typical day a very busy day?
Yes.
Okay, can you?
I can generate a question. Oh, who am I going to? I see only my colleagues on my screen. Carolina, where was the last natural place that you visited?
The last natural place that I visited was Will Rogers State Park, actually, for a hike with my kiddos.
Okay, let's do one more. Anyone else? Teen you, what worries you? What are you stressed out about?
Oh, I'm stressing about a student never showed up to my class, and I knew that he was a good student before. So now, yeah.
Thank you for cooperating with this type of activity. I do that quite a lot as a warm-up activity with my students in the way, and later on we'll discuss whether that was a gamified activity or game-based learning activity. But what I'm hoping in this type of activity to generate discussion and have students interact with each other and ask each other. Sometimes I pair them up and I ask them to look at the board, or I give them the board as a printed version, and they use the picture to ask themselves questions. And I'll talk later about how I structure my lesson, but each lesson for me starts with a warm-up activity where I want students to start thinking in the target language and also getting to know each other so we can create a community. Those type of pictures call for more interpersonal or personal and knowing our peers much more on a deeper level. So this is one activity, and now we'll do another activity. I'll just go, okay, so this is the activity. And what you see here is a board with the numbers. And we're gonna, as a group, we're gonna try and reveal what's beyond the numbers. Once we have enough data, and maybe you can even, right now we just have an image without any writing. And once you have enough information about the picture, you can come up with any name for the picture. And the way we're going to play it, I'm going to approach someone and ask you to choose a number, and then ask you whatever I want. Now you can specify the questions to a certain topic, but for now let's just ask random questions. So I'm going to ask Lori. Lori, can you choose a number?
20.
Okay, so Lori, before I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Lori, what is your favorite place in the world? Did you choose a number, by the way?
20, I did.
Yes.
20.
Yeah. Lori, what's your favorite place in the world?
Lisbon.
Okay, so okay, that's now, Lori, why won't you ask someone to choose a number and ask him or her a question?
Okay, and about anything?
About anything. I mean, we could decide that we want to choose a theme, but for this purpose, we can ask any random question.
Okay, Andrea, can you pick a number?
7.
And did your kids come home with a lot of Valentine's Day candy last week from school?
No, they did not, because they don't exchange candy anymore, I guess, at the middle school. No, that's more like elementary
Andrea,
school.
did you choose 7?
Yeah.
I chose 7, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So remember, the idea is to get as much information, let's say in 3 minutes, or about the picture. So Andrea, choose someone.
So am I supposed to ask a question about that picture? No.
No, you need
Any
to choose
question.
someone
Okay.
who chooses a number, and then you ask any question.
Okay. Britta, choose a number. Is Britta still there?
I didn't unmute myself. 18.
18.
Okay. Ask a question, please.
Britta, what plans do you have for spring break?
Oh, none right now, but hopefully something somewhere in nature if my car works.
Okay, and you chose
Okay.
number 18.
Yep, I did.
So once you responded, I am revealing a part of the picture. Okay. Let's continue this chain.
All right. Atia, pick a number.
Number 11.
All right. This is a long weekend. What are you planning to do other than working?
Actually, tomorrow I'm going to have my father-in-law, who's 102, and my father, who's 92, over to play roulette.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
that
wonderful.
keeps them
So
busy.
you got the idea.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this tool, with this site where you create this?
No.
No.
Anyone? So, okay, let me reveal the pictures slowly but surely. And I'll tell you right now, it takes like a minute to learn how to create something like this. Are you familiar with this sculpture? Anyone?
I
Okay, this
saw
is what?
Well, I saw it with you, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a sculpture in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, yes.
It's in Amsterdam. It's called Addiction. So, but let me show you how to create something like this in really a minute or 2 minutes. So let me just close it. And the site is called Class Tools. You see Class Tools?
Yeah.
Okay, so I go to classtools.net. Okay, and it has different things. This site has different games, and you can create fake SMS and really different things. Like this one is very cool. Close. You take a text and it creates a close automatically. But the one that I chose for this activity is called image reveal. So I go to image reveal. I click on it. Okay, and I can play with the number of boards. The numbers you see below, I can create less and more. Okay, now I have to upload the picture. So I go to upload image. I'll upload any image that I have. Okay, let me upload this one. Okay, open. That's it. And
Nice.
okay, now you can play only with images, but you can also play with the wording. Like, you can take a picture or a phrase and you can ask the student to guess what is the phrase. And again, I use it as an excuse just to have students interact with each other. The idea is not, it's not such a, to find the phrase is okay, or to give a name to the picture, but this is a fun way and a motivating way to have them interact with each other, which it does, we need to do that more in the class, especially at the beginning. So classtools.net, if you have not used it before, try it for your next lesson. And you can do it with all levels. Students in first semester can ask themselves simple questions such as what do you study today, when did you wake up today, what are you planning to eat, and etc. Any questions until now?
Yeah, what's the connection you're making between the question answer and the picture reveal? And then once the picture is revealed, do they do anything with the picture, or
so I think that's a legitimate question. I use it to activate language in the classroom. I do it as a warm-up activity. It really, I can take any random pictures that I want. The idea is that they start talking in Hebrew, sometimes in the target language. Sometimes the 5 minutes that we do that activity is the only time during the, let's say, 50 minutes that I teach that everyone is really talking. We always have the students who always, raise their hand and they want to participate, and those who are passive. Sometimes I do it in pairs, so each one gets to ask each other even more questions. So there is no point beside having them to generate, to produce with the language. And you can connect it if you want to a topic, but it's really not necessary. It's up to you. That's the way I use it. You can use it in different ways.
It's definitely can be a warm-up activity for anything, or it can be tied into your lesson that here is a trigger that we're going to talk about this today, and this is maybe something, the photo that is associated with it, or ask questions related to the topic that that you learn, that they are learning currently, and then reveal a photo that is associated. So it can diversify in many different ways.
Like you can use it, you can definitely use it just to continue your stream of thought, Hagit, is maybe to upload the picture with some wording that they can guess what's gonna be the topic of the lesson today. So you can use it this way. But you can be as creative as you want. That's the way I use it, as a way to generate some talking in the classroom and to predict maybe the topic of the lesson. Or if you want them to use certain vocabulary that they just recently learned, you can say, the questions have to be under the certain topic, and then you can evaluate it and assess how well they are familiar with the vocabulary or the language structure or whatever.
So Mira, I suggest that you continue, and maybe I will save the questions till the end because.
Okay, I think that, you know, we could do either way, because sometimes when you see
said you have an
something,
hour,
question, so it's really up to you. We can save questions for the end, but I like also throughout my presentation to see where everyone is. So today's agenda is, as you started to realize, is not just about games, but talking about the difference between game-based learning and gamification, which are two different terms. They do have things in common, but they're different terms, to demonstrate through examples and help us to think about how we can make a judgment in what part of the lesson to implement either games or gamification. So just in general is about games, some research finding on games in education in general, that the games, especially those with simulation component, provide a 23rd gain over traditional learning. Co-play increases motivation than solo playing. So, you know, we do give them, for example, to use word wall, but word wall for the most part is a solo playing. So we need to think about how to incorporate more co-playing in the classroom. Games are more powerful when they are combined with text. Action games enhance attention control. Games are wonderful for learning, language learning, so it's good for us language instructors. They're also very good for overcoming biases and cognitive dissonance. They encourage positive behavior, both cognitive and social skills. And they are also what we call serious games that can really promote change around big issues such as social justice, health education, and more. And in general, when we play a game, what it introduces to our life is the idea of goal setting, rules which determine how we reach the goal. It does allow us to practice interaction and problem solving, progression, how to give and receive feedback, which is a very important component of our life, how to compete or to collaborate, and also have fun while we are learning. And I know during the pandemic where we all taught remotely and students were so fatigued with learning on Zoom, I used a lot of games just to wake them up and boost some energy in the classroom. So as I said before, game-based and gamification are different terms. So now let's talk about what is game-based learning. Game-based learning, when we introduce games, it's usually an entire system, but it has to achieve a learning goal. We're not only playing for the fun, but we do have to determine what are the goals in terms of, the goal can be to practice vocabulary on a certain topics, etc. And it requires a set of activities from beginning and end. We usually don't like to start and stop it at the middle because it creates frustration. So, sometimes we need to choose short games, but it's important to do it from beginning to end. It requires a set of instructions and rule. And also in the research, what they suggest that every game should end with some component of debriefing. How did it work for me? What was useful? How would you do it differently next time? And we know that the debriefing is a very important part of language learning. So basically in game-based learning, we learn by doing things. We problem solve by taking a problem-based approach. It's important to convey the message that it's okay and it's safe to make mistakes. For us, it provides formative data about how the students are doing generally. And overall, it provides an experience of growth. In terms of the benefits of game-based learning, the literature shows that it improves retention of long-term vocabulary and engage motivation and engagement of students. Those are the main two benefits. In remote and iFlex learning situations, we don't have a long, I mean, we've been doing it for the last 2 years, so it's not, we don't have enough data, but what we can see is that it does create, when we play, we create a sense of community, and it's easier to do it through games, and it helps with Zoom fatigue. And we've had to deal with that for the last 2 years. I like what Gran and McAlpin are saying about games for criteria for using game in teaching L2. They use the way play to say that what's important is what's the purpose of the game, what are the language skills that needs to be practiced, how is the gamified activity advance students' learning, that's the A, and the Y is, will the gamified activity yield any information about the students' understanding of the culture or use of the target language? So I like this play with the word play. I mentioned before that I have a very structured lesson plan, which is based on the OPI. I am also an OPI certified tester, and you know that the OPI is very, as 4 stages, and based on those 4 stages, we've created this lessons structure that that has 4 stages. One is the warm-up, one is the second one is the reinforcement, the teaching of the new element, and the wind down. The warm-up, as I said, it's like 5 minutes of interactive activity where the students interact with each other around a topic or something. And then there is the reinforcement stage, where is also an interactive part where students are, we're giving them a situation to reinforce what they've learned recently. With novice learners, we start with reinforcement because they don't have enough language to start creating with the language, and so we skip the warm-up. And then there is the part where we teach a new element, and then winding down, which is usually the part that is very neglected because, you know, we have 1 minute and we don't do the wind down. And those stages are important because they give us a lot of data, and if you do it gradually, students, you maximize really students' learning. And the reason why I'm bringing it up now is because I have to make a decision in what stage of the lesson I do games, and in what stage of the lesson I do gamification. Once we learn a little bit about gamification, we could ask this question as a group and try and answer it. But before I go to gamification, there are some sites, wonderful sites that I'll show you today that have already ready templates to create games, and you just need to put your own content. And there are also templates at Google, at SlideMania and SlideGo, where the game is already there and you just need to add whatever you want. I use PowerPoint game tablet. I create my own games on Google Slide. And how many of you are familiar with the site Genially?
I'm familiar with it.
Hagit?
Yeah.
Okay, what about the rest of you? So if not, you would bless me after this session today, because the site is a Luna Park for teachers. I mean, there's so many nice games and templates that you can use. So I'm going to show you both things that you can create on SlideMania, Go, SlideGo. So let's start with this one. This is a slide. This is a template for SlideMania, and I do those games in Hebrew, but I created this one for you in English. So let's play it for a second. I do teach a class, a 300 level class on food culture in Israel. And at the end of the course, we wanted to celebrate the learning by playing a game. So the way we play the game, sorry, just a second. I need to go to the right. Okay, here is the game, okay? So let me put it on a slideshow. And we have digital dices, so 5. Okay, so whoever gets to, I get to roll the dice, and let's say I go to number 5. Something is wrong. Just a second. I'm going to fix it. We should not see the cards. I don't know why we are seeing the cards. Okay, I'm going to number 5. And I ask the students, can you say one new phrase you learned that uses food vocabulary, okay? And the students is going to say it. And then we roll the dice again, and we get to a different card. For example, describe shortly the Arab food cultures in Israel. You can invite a peer to help you with this task. Okay, then we roll a dice, and let's say it shows us that it's 16, and we have a different task. If someone asks you what is an Israeli kitchen, what would be your response? And if we go to 3, if there, we saw a movie called Gefilte Fish, and the students need to continue the sentence. The movie Gefilte Fish is about, okay, and then each students get a turn, they roll the dice, and they get to do a task. So the template is there, you just need to add your own content. And it's wonderful for getting to know each other at the beginning of a semester. It's wonderful when you end the unit and you want to celebrate the end of the unit. Any questions about that? Are you familiar with this template? So if just go to Slide Mania and you'll find, you see, it's on Google Slide, and I put all the information, all the questions that I wanted to ask. You know, you roll the dice, and then students get to pick and ask, and either continue a sentence, or the assignment can also be ask someone else in the room something. So that's one template on a Slide Mania. Another thing that I wanted to show you, which is a game, I created this on a site called Genially that I'll show you in a second. And I used Connect 4, and you see pictures of my students. I just did it the other day. We finished a unit. I don't use a textbook, so I create all the thematic unit. We just finished a unit on name giving. How do we give name? How do we choose why people change names? Are there any names laws around the world? It was an intermediate low class. So I went to Genially, which that's the site, and I'm going to show you in a second. That's Genially. Okay, it was created by Spanish tech people. You need to create an account. There is a free version and there is a paid version. For many months, I've used only the free version that provides quite enough templates, but I've used it so much and I wanted to try more. So I've bought the Pro, which is very relatively cheap, $45, I think, dollars per year, and I think it's worth it for the amount of use that I do. So that's the site, Genially. And if I go to my panel, you can see a lot of games that I've created. I'll show you a few of them. It takes a minute to upload. So this is the one that I've used last week with my students. The way I use it so the students can interact with each other is that I divide them, as you could see in the picture, into groups, and they as group need to decide on the answer. So it's not a solo game, it's definitely a group game. So if I go to the view mode, basically I inserted questions here. They were divided into 2 groups, each group in a color, and they had to do the 4 connect together by answering questions. If they didn't know the answer, the turn goes to the other group. We all are familiar. I've never seen, a group of 18, 19 students so happy for a long time. I also asked them to sit on the rug. They were the happiest group of students I've seen. And also that provided me, and they played, they summarized the unit, and that gave me a lot of information and data as a summative or a formative assessment on how they are doing in terms of language elements, vocabulary, content-wise. So this is one game that I've used through Genially. Another games that I've used also on Genially is this game, which is called Traffic Light. And again, the templates are there. So I'm trying to think about what was the top. No, this is how you're going to see it before you put your content. So you choose it, and you just whatever, you could ask questions about the topic, and they have to. It's a kind of a gamified quiz, but it's done in a nice and playful way. So that's another one, Traffic Light. Another one that the students like is bowling. Okay, I'll show you a nice game. And this was a way to review before a test. So I created the Hebrew version. There is a question. If they get it right, they get to throw the ball, and they continue to the next question. If they get it wrong, okay, instead of saying wrong, I said it's not the end of the world, try it again. And so to create it as a social game, again, I put them in groups and they decide together on the answer. So we've seen Traffic Light, we've seen 4 Connect, we've seen bowling. Let's see what else I have here. This is a domino game. It was something that we did, the motive of light in a holiday that we celebrated in December, Hanukkah. So they learned about phrases that use the word light, and just show you, there is a question here. When there is a green light, what does it mean? And the answer are that you need to stop, that you need to call someone, that you need to continue. Okay, they get it right, they get to play domino. So there are so many games in Genially, and I really encourage you to start playing. I have to warn you that it's addictive, but I have a lot of games already because I've been using it for 2 years, and once you create a game, you can recycle it the following year with the same class, or modify it to a lower level or higher level. So why won't you ask me some questions now before we move on about Genially, about anything that comes to your mind?
Yes, I have a question, if I can. Mira, for the games, and you showed like with the bowling, so if they don't get it, they try again. There's often some kind of a winner or a stake involved. For the first one that you showed, that was the board game with the numbers, and then they choose a number and there's a task. What happens if the student is unable to do the task? How do you deal with that?
We help them. And sometimes I pair them up. So I paired them. I mean, one way of dealing with that is when we pair them up and they can discuss together, or I try to, if the students doesn't understand. I mean, usually it's not going to be that they don't know how to answer, that they don't understand the language, right? Because once they understand the language, they're capable of answering. So I rephrase it again. I make them do it with my help, or have students help them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I deal with it. But really, I mean, at the beginning, students are shy and they don't want to volunteer. But once we do it more than once, they know, you know, I play with them so many games. They know that it's okay to and not get it right and to make mistakes. And that's why it's a safe place. And because we're doing it so much, they already know that it's okay. So they are willing to take risk and answer, even if they're not 100% sure.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? So this genuinely site is very popular in Europe and Israel. All the teachers, I mean, all the teachers I know are using it. I think it's less popular here in America. I did a whole presentation to my department. They also didn't know about it and they've started using it, and I only get really nice feedback about it. So we've seen, go ahead.
Have you used Factile for Jeopardy?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty good too. Just if some of you
There
don't know,
are so many options
way of designing a Jeopardy game.
Yeah, so this is the traffic light, this is the bowling, another bowling, this is the Jeopardy on Genially that I've used. Here I did it as a review for a test, you know, vocabulary, grammar, text that we read and etc. This is another fun things. You know, Rosh Hashanah is the new year that we celebrate usually around September. And we've learned a lot of phrases with the word Rosh, which means head. Let me see if I can see it here. Yeah, this is the one. So they have a sentence when someone agree with someone, and I gave them 3 phrases that use the word had. So when someone agree with someone, there is a phrase in Hebrew, in one head. That's how you translate it. So if they get it right, they get to build a house and continue with the next questions. So they also like that type of game. I want to see, we did the bowling, we did the domino, and I mean, there's so many. I just gave you some example. Let's see what's that. That's a gamified activity, which I'm going to talk in a second. So let's go back to the main.
I'm sorry, can I just ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
So generally, these games, you have students working in small groups. You don't do everything all together. I mean, the warm up at the beginning, but all of the other games, they're done in small groups.
I do it in smaller groups because otherwise I would always have the same hands up answering the questions. Mm-hmm. I want them, and they know already, they have to process, you know, they have to read the question together to process it as a group and to discuss it and agree or disagree. So that's the way I use it as social games. Mm-hmm. Now, I could also send them this game to do asynchronously at home, and they're going to do it by themselves. So many students ask me after we play the game in the class to try and do it also at home. So they have the links to all those games, so they can do it also by themselves as a way to practice. This is also through Genially. Remember that I mentioned that the research shows that games through simulation are very effective in learning. So this is a simulation that I did with them. That's your first trip to Israel. And in order, before you are going on this trip, you need to gather some information. I want to go to take you to the site because you'll see what I mean. It has the sound of the airplane taking off. Let me see if I can go back. You know what, I'll go to Genially here and I'll take you to this simulation game. It's almost like an escape room. And on Genially, you have templates for escape rooms as well. So let me go to this simulation. Here is the simulation. We've learned about places in Israel. So it's okay. So that's the first trip to Israel. They feel like they are on a flight, on a plane, right? Okay, and they start. So the first things that they need to do you hear the sound of the airplane? Can you hear it?
I hear some beeping.
Okay,
Did
but
you
you hear
share?
it. Okay. Anyway, the first assignment they had to do is to find out what type of visa they need to have before they go to Israel. We're talking about students, yes? And then they had to write this information and answer some questions on Google Docs. So I inserted the Google, sorry, not Google Doc, Google form into this slide. Okay, so that was the first assignment. Then the other assignment, another assignment that they had to do, let me go again. I don't know, for some reason it's stuck. So, okay, they do that. They do that. Okay. Okay, the next assignment was about going to places and learning some information about places, again, followed by a Google form with questions to see that they've read the information. So that's, you know, if you want them to take a trip to Portugal, Spain, French, whatever, this would be a great template for you to use. So since we have only 15 minutes, I'm going to continue with my main slide. I want to go to gamification because this is another game I created on Google Slide, but I'm going to skip it. This is an escape room about happiness. We had a unit about happiness and I created an escape room on Genially. But I want to go to gamification because gamification is something different. Gamification is an umbrella term, which means that we use game elements in non-game situations. And when you think about it in everyday life, let's say you are at home and you want to see how many things you are doing in half an hour. So let's say I have half an hour right after this workshop, a lecture. Maybe I can start a pot of soup, I can write 2 emails, I can send an SMS to a friend. This is gamification because you are playing with time. How many things you can do in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So we use gamification all the time without even knowing it. Gamification is a mindset that can transform the way we learn, work, and think. How many times when we taught in class, we came to class, we didn't like the chairs arrangement, and I told the students, you have 1 minute to set up the chairs in half a circle or a circle. This is an element of gamification. It doesn't always look like a game, but it's a game. And what gamification includes are those elements: giving points, giving rewards, time and activity, dividing students into teams, showing them their progression, quest. What we did at the beginning of our session where we unreveal a picture, that's a quest element. It's not a game. Giving an immediate feedback, lead board like we have in Kahoot and in other activities, using avatars, badges. Animation is also a form of gamification. Sorry, do you hear my granddaughter?
Okay, yeah.
Sorry about that. So what we did at the beginning was a quest. That was a gamification. And the truth is that gamification is much shorter than a game. And that's why I use it as a warm-up activity. I'm not going to use a game which can take 10 minutes at the beginning of a class. I'm going to use gamification elements. I'm going to use game-based learning when I want to practice something, and I can give it a 10 minutes practice. This is another type of gamification. That used to be when we taught all on remotely, and they, as a beginning, as a warm-up activity, I gave them to create a puzzle and find what's going to be the topic of the lesson. And once they put the puzzle together and find the topic on the chat, I gave them a badge, kol hakavod. Okay, that was a reward system. That's a gamification. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the site iSpark, which is a site where you let students practice accuracy and pronunciation. And if they get it all right, they get a trophy that says 100%. But if they get 80%, they can do it again. Everyone wants to do 100%, so it motivates them to do. It's a wonderful site where you just write the sentence or as a paragraph, and students just read it and get an immediate response whether their speech is accurate and their pronunciation is accurate. iSpark. And then there is the Spreader that I think many people know, that they check and assess fluency. Those sites, iSpark and Spreader, give an immediate feedback, which is an element of gamification. Are you familiar with classroom screen?
Yes.
Anyone?
Yes, I've used it. Yeah.
Okay. How did you use it?
I used it last year mainly to, put a lot of the content, gather it together for like different, songs I'm using, games, links, and, share it with the students.
Yeah, classroom
management. Yeah.
It's a management board. It's free. So if you go to classroom screen, as I'm showing you right now, you go to launch. You get a colorful board, and you can change the pictures. If you go to, let me just move. Okay, if you go to here, you can choose the language. So it's now in English, but it has in Arabic, I'm sure in all Spanish. So I'm going to look for Hebrew, Dutch, Hebrew, French.
The only thing, the QR code did not work last year. I don't know if it's working, but it wasn't working. So that was a little bit the downside of it. So you prepare like a screen that you want the students to access it, and it had some glitches.
So they improve it. It's working now. So this is, you see how it changes the language to Hebrew. Here is the background. So you can use one of their backgrounds, or you can use your own background, upload the picture, and the background can be related to a topic that you're going to teach. Why it's a gamified screen? Because here, for example, I can put the student's name. And if I don't want, okay, let me put some names. Sydney, Hagit, Lori, Caroline. So if there is a question or a will or anything, instead of me choosing the students, it chooses the student, okay? So Hagit is going to answer a question, okay? The same is they have dices, so you can also give students numbers, and based on the number, you're going to decide whose turn it is to answer questions. You can add a text. You can add here under media, you can add another image, you can add a YouTube clip, you can add, I like to add a traffic light, and when I want them to get ready for an activity, I turn on the yellow light. It has a timer, so if you give them an activity for 5 minutes, the timer would start to work. It has the date. So I use it a lot also as a warm-up activity. It's free. Try it. It's very friendly, easy to work with. So, and I've used it. I use it also when I'm in the classroom. Sometimes I insert a clip with some questions to start a discussion in class as a warm-up activity. So this is classroom screen. This is in generally a gamified activity. Again, a picture is being revealed by answering questions. So once you answer questions, the puzzle, pieces of the puzzle reveal, and they can find a phrase. They can, they can read something, and we can start discussing it. I taught a class, I taught a unit on let's keep in touch, which is so relevant, right? And I created this on Google Slide. Put emoji. I mean, one of the things that we learn throughout the unit Keep in Touch is really understanding the symbols of emojis and what does it mean in Hebrew. So student, it was on Google side. Let me see if I can have it here. So each students got his or her bone, and they were playing with it. So they had to match the picture. And it's not a game, it's a gamified activity by dragging something and put it next to the right picture. Okay, so I'll take this here. I don't know why it's not working right now. Okay, but that's the idea.
Yeah, sometimes when sharing a screen with the slides, it's not always.
So the thing is, they had 5 minutes, and they worked on it. So that's why I would call it a gamified activity.